Howdy, Asher Raphaelov here. I'm getting over a sickness, and you know what that means. It's time for Overdue Commentary, which this episode of Overdue Commentary is Comedy, Comma, Sketch. This first sketch is called Ariane Booty, and it was written a very long time ago with a close friend named AJ Brown, and it's actually totally based on an inside joke. We knew people. It was based on people we knew, and I kind of just altered it. I wanted it to be thrown in here as the opening sketch because, honestly, in high school, a lot of people made the joke that I would direct porn because I was into film for a while, and you know, I was just, I don't know, I wasn't the most popularly accepted kid in high school, I suppose, but I know a lot of people, at least my friends, kind of had this joke that I would direct porn, so I decided to open it with a porno, which also is kind of befitting of the theme. It's very college humor. I kind of wrote it to get all of that out and just, you know, just like kind of splurge it all out, and you know, just like I'm done with drugs and sex humor now, and you know, I got it out. So and I just wanted to do it like respectfully. You know, I didn't want to just be sexual to be sexual and be offensive to be offensive. I wanted it to be have some rhyme or reason at least. And this section with Michael Pep was completely improv. Anyways, that was Corbin Allball and Leanne Pippin. None of those people that you saw were originally cast for that sketch. Also, Portia Shaw was in there. So this was dubbed the Acting Lab segment, and this room is called the Acting Lab, and essentially what it was to practice. It was the size of a stage, the ground level was, and it was, you know, to coordinate, and you know, a lot of tape was used, and that type of situations were going on, and it was also probably used as a classroom a lot of times. But anyways, I just asked them if we could use it during one of the productions when I knew they wouldn't be using it. And they said yeah. So, I mean, normally it is impossible to use this. Like, we basically had 1 week to use this room. And that's a lot of this film, a lot of this production was in that, like, okay, we have a week to get all this, and now we have a week to get all this. And, you know, I guess that's kind of a good way to look at production on a certain level. But that sweatshirt is, I don't know who made it, but I think they said it was made in '94. But I found it at Goodwill. And, there's one of the derp gags, the like, just stupid. I was just wearing it and now I'm just gonna pull it off me and throw it at you. And that joke that Corbin is still there. I guess Abe. No one knows anyone's name in this. The characters are really. It was very hard to write this section, especially, and a lot of it changed. I remember Garner, who's actually lying down on the ground about to get up. That is Garner, one of my good friends. He inspired me a lot when I was rewriting the Acting Lab. Originally, it was totally just like another big fat sketch, and Garner was like, dude, it should be something else. It should be more subtle. It should be kind of more like The Office. And once he said that, I was able to, because I was putting off rewriting this so long, and it was not very good, and very little of it was kept. In fact, the original I don't even think had the film major character played by William Thomas Hodgson, who I'm just honored that I was able to work with him when he was so young. Yeah, so the Acting Lab was directed by Eric Mondragon and Brian. Brian was helping the whole time, but ended up taking over when Eric had to leave later. But yeah, he pretty much helped the whole time, and I mean, I remember there were sections of the Acting Lab that it was me and Brian, and then 8 actors. And it was just, it was just painstaking, but I mean, that's not this one. This one, I think we had a bigger crew. But, yeah, basically this is, I don't know when I came up with this little bit about doing Jesus the story of Jesus as Tupac. I think I was talking to my roommate Julian Saradoich, who was really a music guy, and I was like, wouldn't it be funny to do a sketch of Tupac as Jesus? And he was like, yeah, but someone would be pissed because you didn't do it with Biggie. And so I thought that was funny, but I thought it was only really logical or plausible as just dialogue to lead into a different type of sketch, as opposed to actually making a sketch about it. Uh, by the way, I would like to just mention here that the whole thing was it's divided online into episodes, 5 episodes, but the whole show was meant to be seen in one sitting as one episode. For example, they mentioned something about Leanne falling into her purse, and then that actually does kind of happen at the very end of the show. And certain things like that kind of don't really match up if you watch it episodically as opposed to in one big chunk. But I mean, it is what it is. So now we have like most of the crew, most of the actors, and about I think 3 more are going to be introduced, maybe just 2 more. But here's Nancy, played by Maddie Knox, and then I guess I'll go through the cast. It's Michael Pepp. I don't know if I mentioned that. Is the main guy, one of my best friends, closest allies. Just love him to death. And all of these people are theater majors. And to explain really quick, that meant that I could only film with them when they were not preoccupied by theater, which was very, very rare, especially at times when I needed all of them. When I needed just 3, it was a little easier. I could do it maybe on a weekday, but basically all of this stuff just had to be filmed on Sunday, which was their only day off, and it was just annoying, but for them, I'm sure. But so this song was written and produced by my close friend Matt Tanner. It's a band called Ape and Elmo, and it's also it includes Doug Chapman. But he's such a good friend that he basically just gave me all the rights to all his songs ever. And this one I thought was really perfect for the intro. I like the idea I just love, this is all samples, this whole song, or the whole beat, and I really like that type of music a lot. And with the footage that I had, by the end of it, I think that this intro came out pretty well. This is like one of the last things I edited, and I had like not very long to edit it. But I had a lot of pre-planning into it. I listened to this song probably 500 times or so, over and over, just as part of it, being like, what am I going to do here, and what's going to, I just saw it in my head, and I like doing stuff like that. So I think it came out pretty well, and having a couple days to edit it, it looks pretty good. Yeah, and this was all filmed, all the intro stuff was filmed in between record, which was one of the most interesting productions I've ever been on. It was I learned, I'll get into that later. So Torian, kind of just stopped being in the movie for a while. He would show up and kind of just slunk around. I love him, he's a great guy. But he kind of would just come and just be there and not have much input and, do what I told him and everything. But so he kind of just starts to slowly fade out of the show, which is kind of interesting, but he does have a very good part in the final sketch. But alright, so here's Jesus, the untold story of Jesus Returns, which I wrote as a short story after I wrote the screenplay, but I also wrote it as a short story with a lot more backstory to it. But this is filmed at a house called the Alamo, which was a concert house. Emmett Mead, who is one of the cinematographers and directors on this project, lived there. So, just crowdsourcing free locations. This production had no money for locations, really. So originally we filmed this with Garner, and he left midway through the production, and kind of with very little notice, and which was cool. I mean, something was happening, but basically we had to refilm all this. Actually, the stuff with Michael Pepp we didn't refilm. The stuff with Michael Pepp is from literally like 4 or 5 months prior to the stuff with Spencer Carter, who jumped in to help out last minute when we had to reshoot. He actually does a great, excellent job. I really dig it. I really like his performance, and Garner's was a little more over the top, so I think the subdued Jesus maybe works a little better. Leanne was not written in the screenplay at all of this sketch. This was all improv. And basically this sketch originally was going to be so different and so epic, and it would have been too good comparatively to the rest of the sketches, but if it came out the way it was written. But it required a church, and I spent all this time trying to get the church, and this lady was like being really nice about it, and I was just explaining it, and it's just like, it's just about this story about Jesus coming back, and this and this and this. She was being so nice, and then like maybe 2 days before we had to be there, she was like, oh, by the way, it's going to cost you $2,000 for about 4 hours, like between midnight and 4 a.m. is when I wanted it. Like, no one would be there, and we weren't gonna, it was just not gonna be intrusive or anything, and but anyway, so that was 4 times the budget that I had, so I was just like, for 1 page of 75, so I was just like, I'm sorry, so I had to rewrite it, and I really think that this sketch kind of, I mean, if it came out the way it should have, it would have been the perfect sketch to open with, but it's kind of like the slump, like, of the whole show, I think, is like right here. And also with the acting lab having to introduce like that like 5 different characters and explain the show and kind of the premise, and and kind of get open up into the first sketch, and all that stuff, and it's just we're like 9 minutes in, and here's like kind of this boring sketch. So I kind of just wrote in, like, literally on the way over to like finishing filming this movie, I was just like, how am I going to end this? I got to figure it out tonight, and this is how I decided to. I think actually right here is the only shot I was not there for the whole production, and there's only 1 take of it, and there's a stupid dog in the window. But yeah, so I just was like, okay, I guess I'll have him. Originally, this guy was going to take Jesus to a church, and he was gonna, like, and on the way, Jesus was going to see the second cross, and he was going to have another flashback. But then he would go into the church, and he would have this, like, solemn moment. Jesus would wander around and see all these things that were in his honor, like, the glass and the, whatever Jesus stuff. But then he would, like, turn a corner and see one of the wax figures of a bloody, thorn-crowned Jesus, and, like, on the cross, and just, like, so ruined, and he would then hemorrhage out and fall to his death. Alright, this is the second episode, but like I said before, it's not really supposed to be divided into episodes, or wasn't originally meant to be, but everyone told me, everyone was like, you should divide it into episodes, why don't you divide it? I guess, with the internet, you don't want to watch an hour thing, but I would agree, or I would argue that, what if it was something you really liked, wouldn't you want it to be an hour? But anyway, or wouldn't you want to be longer? But anyways, I guess 10-minute episodes. That's how web series usually go anyway. So this is Talus Geohegan Freefeld, who is I think it's Freifeld, who is kind of going. I think she's going as Talus Rose as her stage name, but it's very poorly covered, but Talus actually gave Corbin his shirt back. But that was it. By the way, that was another song by Ape and Elmo, which is, again, my friends Matt Tanner and Doug Chapman, and they're great. They're just some of the most talented people I know. Matt is one of my good friends. But so this was a nightmare to edit. There were, with all these actors, you would assume that there would be like a bunch of footage, and there was like not much. It was like 8 different clips. There's like 8 different actors. Like it was just and all those had maybe just 1 or 2 takes. It was just like, it was hard to get it to flow on any level. So I know that, like, someone who's the trained eye would be like, there are totally flaws everywhere. But for the footage that was obtained, and like I said, all this was on a tight time schedule. Like, we had to just keep going. Like, I had mere hours with each of these people, and it was just, we had to go. We had to get it, and we had to do it. And I think that kind of is like a cool aspect of it. And if you disagree, then I wouldn't be watching it. So coming up is another sketch I wrote years ago, and this one is, a lot of people consider it to be the best. I don't know what I think is the best sketch. I probably think the last sketch is the long one is the best one, but that one makes no sense. But anyway, this upcoming is Love's Enormous Wings, and it was written years before I decided to do a sketch show. But it has this song that I don't own the rights to, but it's by the Leisure Society, and it's called Love's Enormous Wings, which is also the title of the sketch, which is about to start up here right now. It stars Tim Edeker, which he's one of my closest allies and best friends, but he was my roommate at the time, and this was right when Corbin kind of dropped out of the production, and it was like last minute, and I was like, dude, will you do me a solid, please? And he's like, what? I was like, will you be in this movie? And he totally jumped on. He had a blast. I mean, he is like the nicest, like, most loving, caring person ever, and for him to be portraying a serial killer, it's pretty funny, and I think he had a lot of fun with it. I did, when Corbin said he was dropping out, I did say that I would ask one thing of him, that he would still do the voiceover for Love's Enormous Wings, so that it was his voice over Tim's head, or Tim's image. And he agreed, and I thought that was pretty funny. So Talus actually was not allowed to drive, and she had actually never, I don't think she'd ever learned to drive. So this, obviously, if you couldn't tell, is green screen. And it was, it actually was done pretty well by JD, but it's just probably the application I was using. I don't think I threw it into After Effects or anything. I think I just did it and tried to make it the best I could with Final Cut, which, because of the last minute thing again, where I had like a week to finish editing it, and I just had to get it done. And basically, also JD filmed. He just filmed outside one of the windows, and I was like, shouldn't you get out my window? Like, shouldn't you film out my window? And he's like, oh no, it's exactly the same. It doesn't matter which way you're going out the window. I totally was like, oh, you're right. You're the film guy, And when I started editing it, and I didn't notice it right away, but when I showed it to people were like, so why is Tim going backwards? And all the footage of him was going backwards. Like his half of the car was just flying backwards. And so I was able to reverse most of it, but sadly, and you'll notice here coming up, on the bird, I had already, I don't know After Effects or animation at all, so I had other friends help with it. And coming up, you can see the bird is still going backwards because there's no way for me to reverse it without, like, having to redo the whole animation. So, as you can see, the bird is now flying backwards. Which makes no sense because it's flying forward. But anyways, yeah, so I just love this this finale. I think it's like, you kind of understand where the sketch is going, and you're like, oh, okay, she's just going to have her epiphany and this, and like, or he's going to have his epiphany because of the song she showed him. And then it's like, oh, but now she's going to totally fuck it up because she's going to show him this gross song that's going to just trigger all his demons again. And not really a statement on music at all, but I mean, you could argue it, but I think it's just nice. It's a nice tight sketch that, no time is wasted, and it's pretty solid all the way through. So you're gonna hate me when I admit this, but this is like 8 or 9% slower than it should be, which is actually pretty much doubled the length. So like everything is going in slow motion. I purposefully made the clocks and the drips like louder than the dialogue, just to upset you more. And it's really interesting. This was directed by Chelsea Cook, and it was written by Julian Saradowicz, who my roommate I mentioned earlier, who inspired the Tupac Biggie Smalls dialogue. He wrote this, and this is all his. And basically, Chelsea directed it, and this is in my house. The garage was converted at one point into a room, and we just wanted to make it like really just disgusting, and the room was not set up in any way like that. But um, it's kind of I take this as kind of a statement on you know like youth culture in the sense of like how lazy and mindless they're getting, and it's these are like these people could fit in the Always Sunny in Philadelphia universe. It's like he dug out this burrito out of the trash because he's hungry, and then the guy who's wants it back. It's disgusting. It has corn dogs and mayo in it, and it's like, when was the last time they ate? Like, do they care about anything? Are these, and then what's going on with that window? I don't know if it'll come back, but what's going on with that window behind them? Like, there are no other windows in this, it's just, this is like one of those like Tim and Eric deep sketches kind of thing, where it's like, it's not deep, but it's so weird that you can just put any type of meaning into it. And it's also just meant to be, one, a pace changer for the show, and two, like, slightly upsetting. This sketch was directed by Emmett Mead, and I was doing sound on it, and that was the crew. And it was filmed in one day. This is the upper story of my house.
Nothing.
And this was actually based on an idea that I made, or that Mikey, my old friend during the 1.0 era of Blashko, he had this idea of doing Running from Nothing. But basically, this is just kind of a throwback to all my movies that I made in high school, and just like this place is filled with toxic gas. Like, all these are lines we used in old movies, and just making fun of Hollywood. And I thought that, like, kind of cherry picking the best. That one is right there where she kills herself. That was actually new. But I've edited a lot of trailers. It's always fun to edit trailers, and I'm pretty sure I think this came out pretty well. A lot of people, I've heard people say this is their favorite sketch. All right, so okay, so this was a remnant, a leftover artifact of an old sketch I was writing called the Blashko Indulgence back when I was still doing high school stuff, and this is one of the introductions I wanted to do to one of the sketches, though I did not know at the time that it was going to be this sketch, which was actually the first sketch we filmed. This one was directed by Taylor Hilburn, and it was the first week that the cage was open, and we got all the lights, but they didn't have lamps in them, which means they didn't have bulbs. They didn't work. So we had to use the window, and it looked all right, but I mean, we actually had lights, and it was kind of upsetting. I think one of them worked, but... So this was actually filmed on literally the 10-year anniversary of 9/11, 9/11, 2011, and it was the first production we had kicked off the whole sketch show. And I remember my girlfriend was like, why are you doing this today? Like, can you really do that? Do they know, like, does everyone know that you're doing this today? And it was like in the morning too. It was like literally 10 years ago the buildings were falling, and here we're doing a sketch that is kind of like the punchline is 9/11, though it's not a joke about 9/11. It's kind of like one of those, ooh, she got you now, but it's, ooh, you don't like it. And I get a lot of mixed responses from this sketch. A lot of people really like it. A lot of people really are offended, and a lot of people really just are like, why? And here's like this is actually like a little happy bonus that I wanted to do. This is filmed in between record and when we were filming the introduction, the intro sequence. And this is just based on an old screenplay I wrote that with Matt Panfill, my old friend, or still friend, but back when I was around him a lot. And this is such a meta joke, and it's really more for film majors, but a lot of people seem to really like it, and it kind of takes you out of the film in the right way, So at this point in the acting lab, I wanted to get the idea that these characters were kind of able to work together, even though haphazardly. They were able to come up with some ideas, even though it starts off with them not really wanting to think of ideas. this is one of the long sketches. So behind that curtain are actually is actual food. There's some food that I provided for people and a little bit of vodka, which is no one should know about, but I had to hide it because after like an hour of filming it was halfway gone. I had to hide it. I was like, you guys can't be drunk, come on. But I mean, they're working for free, they're having fun, like, loosen them up, I guess. But I wouldn't suggest bringing a lot of liquor to a film set. A lot of their accidents could definitely occur. But this was a pretty well-contained set, and we kind of understood everything that could have happened. We knew this location very well by this point. We filmed the acting lab in order, except I think we filmed it completely in order. Yeah, and little few scenes here and there are out of order, and sometimes we could only get certain people had to leave, so we'd have to like say, okay, well, all the footage we need with you has to be done, and et cetera, which happens a lot in film productions anyway. But the upcoming sketch was originally just going to be my senior thesis. I really liked it, and if I could have put a lot of effort into it, it would have been really, really excellent. But it's called Record, and that's Stormy, one of my roommates at the time, and that's actually supposed to be Maddie, but this is one of the times that I was unable. She didn't get the memo, or she forgot, or whatever. She was really sorry, but I couldn't find her. Like, there were so many times when I was driving around campus, calling as many people as hey, are you with Corbin, or are you with Big Mike, or are you with Leanne, or usually it wasn't Leanne. Where's my grip? A lot of more times it was Talus or Maddie Knox, who they were roommates at the time. But yeah, it was like sometimes I was just driving around campus trying to find people. But so basically, the premise of this sketch is that there's this horror thing happening, this horror movie happening on a soundstage in between takes, but they don't know that the film is recording. And it's all explained in the kind of introduction, the acting lab introduction to this sketch.
Hey,
but
bitch, you a student just like us.
Another little poke at sometimes, not really at my school that much, but sometimes you can get some pretentious filmmakers who are like, I'm better than this, and kind of comment on diva-ism, if that's a word, which it isn't. But there's an example of my terrible skills at special effects. Just a couple electric shock sounds and just making the light look like it turned off. And the shadows are great. I love that shadow of Mike coming. And this sketch was all done by Cody Snyder and Garner, who helped with directing the actors. I knew this sketch was going to be hard, and I was kind of just stepping in as like, let's keep moving and like let's get all this stuff done. So and like make sure that everyone understands, but no one understood. It was such a nightmare doing this sketch. I mean, it was like literally a different question from every actor every second. It was like, wait, where am I right here? What was I doing right here? And why wasn't I here last time we shot? And it's just like, oh my god, my head felt like it was going to explode. And we actually had to prolong this production, which I thought might happen, so I set aside some pickup days, but we had to film a whole other weekend just because it's just such a nightmare. So at this point, you've seen one cut. And this actually, the corrupted footage here, was used because for some reason, the audio of one of the takes I couldn't use, the take that I wanted to use visually, I couldn't use. I had to use a different audio, and it didn't match up, so I had to do some weird manipulation to make it, look like enough like they're talking. And that light is actually the quiet. It's like the we're filming here. It's out the light in the hallway that says on air. It's the on air light. But so there's the second cut. And the sketch is so what needed to be really done professionally or more professionally, just because it's not like, it depends on what you're watching it on if it really works that much. Like, what I'm watching it on right now, you can see someone walking, and in the final cut that I edited, you couldn't just now. And so I don't know, I mean, like, it's just, it's what I get for being, honestly, like, more of a novice editor than, like, I'm good at cutting and I can cut stuff, but I'm not professional in the sense of, like, knowing color grades or mastering audio or any of that stuff. That's, there's a lot of jobs in editing, and trying to do it all by yourself is kind of
Damn,
a
girl.
challenge minus the animation
she
stuff.
did.
He loves enormous wings. But here's another improv moment from Leanne and Big Mike. They wanted to add some character, add some backstory, inside joke type stuff, and I don't know. A lot of people get confused at that. A lot of people love it. I don't know, but it was not in the screenplay. A lot of stuff was cut out here. I don't remember what really it pertained to it at all. But let me see. What else could I talk about? Record. Yeah, right here. See that cut? I could totally notice that there was a cut there. But in the version I was editing it on, when I did the final cut, and in the theater, you can't tell. So it's really dissatisfying to me, sadly, because I really like this sketch and I really like the premise of it. And like that, up until about like that, and then does it read that that's an arm? A lot of people say that they can't tell that that's an arm, and it's just like it's okay, but I think that people, if you let your disbelief, if you withhold some disbelief, I think you can actually really enjoy the sketch, and I think it's worthwhile for it's worthy to be the second longest sketch. This is kind of when I really like the sketches, like right around when the garage door starts opening, which I don't know if I've ever seen that done in one of those first-person movies where the cameraman is actually like crushed by something while he's holding the camera, which I thought was pretty cool. And Corbin definitely had fun doing it. And actually, what you don't notice is though Corbin is talking, the whole film is shot by Cody Snyder. Like, Cody is holding the camera, and two people are walking very close to each other at every take. And this is Craig. My girlfriend at the time, it was her... she would call me her boyfriend and him his girlfriend, so if that explains. But he's a great guy. I love him. But yeah, I just gave him a little cameo, because why not? Anyone who wanted to be in it was pretty much allowed to be in it, as long as they could dedicate the time needed to it. And you can see a light outside, but whatever. It's more about the garage. The outtakes of this cut were great. And a lot of people don't get what's coming up here, but Mike, the audio is being recorded through that boom right now, because the sound is on the whole time. And when they switch right here, which I think is like an excellent coverage of that, but very goofy. But he notices that it's on, which you couldn't notice it from that angle. But
what just happened?
Now the audio cuts. A lot of people think this is a mistake, but no, that's kind of the point. Is like now it's like just not going to make sense. Cut to him laughing in reverse. Cut to them running. There's a cameo right there of Owen Doyle, great guy who actually was really just chilling around set a lot of the time. He was just chilling. He helped a little bit, but he would read and he would just hang out. I guess he's an actor. He's a great guy. I guess he just liked being around that type of environment. He would just come and just chill there. It was very, very interesting. And here's the great finale with Pep. This took a lot of takes, and this was very hard to explain to them why this needed to happen when, and why he needed to move his hand over the screen at a specific time, and why he needed to say internal microphone at a specific time. So this is I'm a Dirty Whore and So Is My Mom, which was actually an idea pitched to me by my mom. She's like, just to comment on MTV, how it was years ago, how it was going downhill. But this is probably the most ensemble cast that we've had. A lot of people who aren't in the show in any other place, and like RJ, and that's Corinne, and Lindsay you saw earlier, and DJ, Andy is in it later. That's Brian, who was just chugging that Jaeger, and he's one of the directors of the acting line. That's RJ.
Punch the shark in the face.
That's the joke that makes this whole show, or this whole minute worthwhile, is punch the shark in the face. And I would love to honestly see a show called I'm a Dirty Whore and So Is My Mom. I think that it would have to be self-reflexive enough to be worth a watch, I guess. But yeah, actually I lost all the footage of that, so that's pretty much the rough cut, and I just added titles. That was the rough cut pretty much that you just saw. I added titles for the final, but I only had the rough cut. I didn't have any of the footage. this is my bedroom at the time, and this was a I don't know. I don't know. I guess I just, it's like someone was making like my dad's dead joke or whatever, and I just thought it was kind of. I just figured.
Dad's dead.
And maybe it was like right next to when someone said, "Who's your daddy?" or whatever. But anyways, I kind of put it together, and I thought it would be funny. And as a quick, this is like one of the quick little. I called this a transition sketch. Just like, I think this is maybe 20 to 30 seconds max. And the "Who's your mom" part, like, was not written by me. Someone else suggested that, and I just decided that, having a lot of humorous input is always worthwhile, especially in a comedy. So here comes the producer again. My general statement on Hollywood in general, and this is kind of when you see how Hollywood he is, because the movie that he pitches, as you're gonna see, is one that is so intricate and has so many themes thrown into it that it couldn't make it. It would be like Spider-Man 3 with all its villains and stuff. It would just be too much, especially for a sketch. And the sketch that ends up, I wanted it to be like, hey, they're going to try the sketch that he's going to do, and then they're going to get to a point where it's going to not make sense. It's going to not make sense so much that they just cut back to the acting lab. They're like, that's enough. What is going on? So you see the whole sketch pretty much, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't really resolve. And then you cut back, it drops it for the rest of the show, and then you're left essentially without a finale, even though this was the finale. I was trying to play with the premise a little bit and actually make a sketch that fit with the premise, and I think it did it alright, but this sketch was a nightmare. I guess for the first part, I'll just focus on explaining the whole story, and then for the second part, I'll focus on the nightmare it was to make this fucking movie. I love this movie, but this movie went through so many drastic changes, rewrites, and just one. I mean, it was just terrible. But I'll get to that after this. So, all right. So here's Andy again, and she's great. She's awesome, and basically this is filmed in my friend Bailey's room, and really quickly, and this is just the intro that kind of is like giving the prelude to, oh, there are zombies. And that was not put there by me. That was just put there by, I think, the RA when they were moving in. And basically, so what you're hearing here is that the whole campus is dry, and that no one has weed, and that they don't know what's going on, and they don't know what's going to happen. So from here, we're going to go to the powwow scene that was dubbed that by Maddie, who directed this whole thing. So this is the big one. Maddie is like the main one. She also did Ariane Booty, which I did not mention, the very first sketch. But so I guess she did the very first one and essentially the very last one. But basically, in the powwow scene, you're going to realize that the main dealer of the campus has this new type of weed called Superpower Kush that gives you superpowers. So so we have zombies and superpowers. The zombies are because of the lack of weed. Everyone has turned into zombies, and they're just looking for weed. And then you have superpowers because now here's the powwow. They have this new type of weed called Superpower Kush. They're gonna smoke the Superpower Kush and go into a it's gonna be this like musical number, and basically right after that they get attacked by zombies or people looking for weed, and then we split off in a non-linear fashion and follow different pairs of characters through the whole story of the film up until the very finale. So basically, you go from from them getting chased by zombies to the almost end, and then you go all the way, and you only follow, say, Michael Pep and Michael Curtis. Those two are the first, and you're going to see that one in this part. And then after that, it's going to cut all the way back to the attack and follow Leanne and Maddie Knox, and Stoney is Leanne. And then you're going to go all the way to the climax, and then you're going to jump back again and follow Garner and his twin Talus through the whole plot. And then once they all meet up, they're going to have the finale. So I mean, that's kind of essentially what's happening, and I think that reads at least, but there are definitely some plot mistakes, and like when you hear about what we went through, I mean, there had to have been plot mistakes. Like, I'm surprised that any form of a film was able to come out of this with how much shit we dealt with. But so this is another song written. It's this is actually just only Matt Tanner, but it was made for Ape and Elmo. And all these bands are Snosberry Studios that I'm mentioning. Pretty much all of them. Anything that has to do with that I know of are Snosberry Studios, which is the in association with. So here we go, The Labyrinthine Mind of Mr. McBundy. I suppose I'll just start the story now because I guess Big Mike, or Michael Curtis, in the red hoodie, one of the nicest people I've ever met. But in between this, so this whole sequence was filmed, this opening outside sequence was filmed in the first semester that we were filming this sketch show. And all of the rest of it, everything that's going to take place after this, was filmed the following semester. And in between these semesters, Michael Curtis, for no reason, I'm not kidding, for no reason, they had no evidence of any reason to ban him from campus, but he got banned from campus. That meant that I could not film with him in the location that I was meant to film. So, a lot of this that we're filming, right here. So he was not allowed to be here. He was not allowed to be here. And a lot of this was filmed when security was, monitoring. So we had to, there were times when we had to hide him in a room. We had to lock him in a room and just pretend like he wasn't in there. He would just be in there alone, and we would be filming bullshit. Nothing. Because we couldn't progress because we needed him, but he couldn't be seen by security because if they saw him, I'm not kidding, they were informed to call the police. For no reason. Because other than that he's a big black guy, I'm guessing. He was no threat to anyone. I'm a bigger threat to people than him. So, there were times when we were filming this, and we have way too much footage of certain things because we had to keep filming and act like we were still going. And security, they're bored. It's like a small art school. There's not stuff happening. It's not violence. There's not, people are smoking weed and hiding, whatever. But that's it. And so they would come and they would just watch us, and we could not film with Big Mike while they were there. And what happened was at the end of this production, this day of shooting, this night of shooting rather, at the end, when we were wrapping, they came in and they fucking saw him. And this was the first of the second leg of production after we shot all the outside stuff the semester prior. This was the first day. So there was still footage that I needed with him. And basically they caught me and called this terrible person who, let me think, what name will I give him? Let's say his name was Peter Romero. Terrible person, just a horrible, horrible man, and he really was upset. Very, 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 it was bad. It was really bad. But anyways, let me talk a little bit more of the themes in this movie before I get onto that. So basically, they're, all the superpowers are very ironic. So, for example, the twins, his clothes are there. They can teleport each other, but they cannot teleport anything else. So not their clothes, not anything. And that doesn't read very well in the movie. Obviously, Michael Pep's X-ray vision not working with his glasses is, explained pretty well. And then Big Mike, he can read minds, but it's in French. So basically, all of these powers, all these superpowers don't work except for Leanne's, who's is the only one that wouldn't make sense to work because it's photosynthesis. But anyway, so this is the end of, this is about to be the climax, right as they start running down the hall. And that is the end of the first part of this sketch. So now we're back to the zombie attack. We're going to follow two different characters this time through the same line of, or I guess thread of time. But instead, I'm going to simply just talk about the nightmare that happened on this production. So, if you, from the last part of the commentary, I explained that we had just basically gotten caught. We were in this building, and we were actually right around here, right around this area, and security came in and they saw Big Mike, and he just started helping take stuff to the car. We were wrapping, like we had just finished the shoot for the night. And basically they were like, oh, is he supposed to be here? Is he allowed to be here? And I'd never said he was, but I just always kept saying, like, everything's fine. We're done making the movie. We're going to be gone in like 20 minutes. I was giving him a ride home. Because I think at the time he lived with me. Yeah, he did. And basically, so instead of calling the cops, because they interpreted that as, oh, he's allowed to be here. So instead they called Peter Romero at like 3 a.m. And oh my god, he was upset. He was so upset. He had already pulled up every email that I had had with the people, and they had already informed me that I wasn't allowed to bring Big Mike on campus. And he had all the documents. This guy was just meticulous about his research, and basically he was like telling me that it was going to affect my production very negatively. And so it's like 3 a.m. I finally get home. What did I say to that? I don't even know what I said to that. I was just like, everything's fine. Nothing happened. Like, everything is okay. Like, nothing happened. I don't know what the big deal is. And he was not seeing it in that way. So basically, I didn't really get much sleep. And then early in the morning, I had to go and have this meeting with them. And I understood what was happening. And they were basically going to tell me that I was no longer really allowed to finish my project. I could not finish it because I was not allowed to film on campus. I assumed that was because this Peter character was the head of the physical plant. And anyways, up until this point, like, I had lost so many fucking locations on campus because there's what was the production? The Longmire. Oh my god, that piss poor show, Longmire. And they started just expanding their production and taking more and more. And every time they expanded, it happened to be this fucking location that I needed or whatever. You know, the next one. First, it was the barracks where we actually shot it. The next after that Christmas break, those were gated up. They were with barbed wire. Like, we couldn't even enter there. So I lost that one because of him. And then the next one was going to be Oñate Hall, and then the Longmire stretched beyond that. And then it was going to be, oh my god, I don't even know, but they finally gave me Mouton Hall, which was actually, really ironically, where all those people worked, pretty much, that were kind of like in this, at this meeting, I go in and I take this notebook, and I like my whole production notebook, and I'm there to give them explain that at this point we're like 85% done with the production, and it's not my project anymore. It's like, this is I was like, look at how many of your students have worked on this project. Like, look at how much, like, I was like really trying to be sentimental, and like I was like, look, it's really a big project, and you guys should really try and help me make this as well as I can. And like, Big Mike is not a threat and all that stuff, and the amount that they didn't care, and I could just tell from the blank stares they were giving me, like, what the fuck are you doing? It was like, why are you boring us with your fucking stupid project? Like, I was so angry. I've never been so angry. I don't know if I've ever been so angry in my life. Like, I literally got up so quick that I knocked over the chair and slammed the door. I didn't care. I didn't give a shit. I was so upset. And I couldn't, oh man, it pissed me off. And I remember going to my roommate, Tim, who was in Loves Enormous Things, was actually seeing someone in Mouton Hall while I was having this meeting. And I, like, swung the door open, just interrupted their meeting, and I was just like, I'm so mad. And he was just like, and I was like, probably to the point of, like, almost tearing up. And so I walked out, and I think I even said, I just have to kill someone. And basically, and they were, oh man, it was crazy. And basically, I had to go to work right then. So I go to work and I kind of cool down, and then I realized that I'm not going to high school in the Middle East, and that they can't just, strip my rights. What the outcome of the meeting was, 1, I couldn't film on campus anymore, and 2, I couldn't check out equipment from the campus cage, which is essentially what I was paying for, and the teachers and the classes. But like, the main thing is the fact that I have all this equipment that I can use. Like, how could I make this movie without using any of their equipment? They even said that if anyone gets caught checking out equipment for me, that they are gonna get banned from checking out equipment. Like, they were super serious about this. It was crazy. So then I go and I'm like, wait, this is unbelievable. Like, they can't just take my rights without any due process, without, I'm paying their salaries, I'm the reason that they have a job, or part of the reason at least, and like, this is a complete outrage. And so I decided to basically retaliate in the same way that they did, very extremely, immensely extremely. So first thing I did was I emailed all of them and I said, I'm demanding a hearing and I read the student handbook, and according to the student handbook, it said that the hearing is only legitimate if it includes a member of all these different groupings, it's like all these people, and it was like someone from the student government, for someone from the administration, someone from student student life, and someone from my department, from the MOV, the film department, and then I could have my friends there too. And so I demanded all this, and then I started a petition, which I got signed by like pretty much everyone. And then there were like 2 kids who were not okay, who were like, you shouldn't have done it because you knew that you weren't allowed to do that, or to bring an actor onto a film set for your film project at your film school. I wasn't allowed to do that. So basically, then I emailed Laureate. Okay, so Laureate is this big corporation that owns a bunch of educational, facilities, and, they own all these colleges and stuff, but they bought us out when the school closed down. Anyways, long story. Look up College of Santa Fe. But basically, I emailed everyone at Laureate, and I was like, this is what's happening. It was very upset. It was right around the 99% versus 1% rally, and I was like, this is, I'm going to make it into this, and I'm going to go to the press, and I did all this, I emailed them. This is like, so by this point I have a hearing. And this is like, I'm literally emailing them like 5 hours before the hearing. All of this happens over about 3 days. This is all like the night, literally the day after my meeting, I have my hearing. And of course, basically, I email them, and it's like, this is unprofessional. I'm trying to make my movie. This is all, like, they are getting in my way of my education. I am paying good money. You need to make sure that this is taken care of ASAP. I was like, I am contacting the press right now. And I emailed the press like 2 hours before my hearing, and I told them this whole story. And within 2 hours, they were at my hearing with the rally of students. Oh my god, I've created such a nightmare for the fucking school. But I was so upset. I just couldn't, I couldn't really, just stop making. I dedicated so much. Every day, not every second of every day. I had other classes and I had other stuff, but as much time as basically possible, I put to this project. But up until this point, and it was just not gonna slip away from me. I was about to graduate, and basically the press showed up. I go there and I have my hearing, which of course was gonna be no, it was not gonna be legitimate at all. So I would have been able to delay and continue. They'd already shut down my production. They had shut it down. I was not filming in any of this time. And basically, it was all I had to talk with one of the people that wasn't really involved, Laura Nunnally, who was the main, she was the head of student whatever, and she was out of town that week, and that's why all this bullshit happened, because it probably wouldn't have happened if she was there. And she was just like, look, don't bring him on campus anymore, and you have all your rights back. And basically, and I didn't see Peter again, and he was the one who was really upset. He was butthurt. I'm sure that he was just so upset that I had just defeated him, because there was it was I caused the biggest fucking, it was but I do regret how big of a splash I made. I didn't talk to the press because they had given me all the stuff back. The press did show up, but I said, I'm sorry, they gave me everything I wanted, so, the stuff between Big Mike and them is between Big Mike and them, and it's, it's not really my, right to step in and make this a big thing. It was a very, very big and immense response to what they were doing, and I almost got people fired, but stopped, pursuing anything like that once I got what I wanted. But it was a good message to the student, to the administration, that you might be able to do this with some people, where you can just take their rights if they or whatever, but so a lot of students will just kind of burrow. I've seen it happen. They'll just bend over and take it. I've seen it happen. A lot of students in colleges think that they are part of this communistic thing, that because they go to the school they have to listen to all their rules and stuff, and then things like that can happen. But there's also the potential for someone to respond in the way that I did. All right, and with that story time coming to its finale, now we're done with the show. Kind of. I knew from the beginning that I wanted to have the credits, quote unquote, credit sequence be a sort of vignette of sketches, just random ideas that didn't fit anywhere else. And yeah, it was. This is the end of the last acting lab. I mean, that we filmed was that part of the acting lab we filmed much later. Maybe this is technically the final sketch that we filmed. I don't know if Ariane Biddy was really after this. So that is Tantric Picasso right there, and Matt Tanner's playing the drums. That's my good friend. Everyone in that band is awesome. But so basically, I guess I'll just go over, how I feel. It's been about 4 or 5 years since I started writing the project, and it's been about a year and a month since I officially released it and finished it. Obviously there are definitely things that could be done better and more legitimately. But I kind of like the haphazard, just let's, run and film and, just throw stuff together and, have a lot of good talent. And, like this joke right here with the boom mic coming in, that was not in the screenplay, and that was just thrown in by Michael Pepp, who was actually doing sound there, to give you an example of how small the crew was. That time it was probably maybe just me, but so these are all the people that shot it. Meaning I didn't really touch many cameras on this production. Not that I don't like to, but I kind of wanted to give someone who really was I'm not into filming as much as a lot of film majors. I'm more into the storytelling aspect and editing and stuff, so I decided to get a bunch of people who loved filming and let them just kind of do their whole thing themselves. And, most of the visuals I had very little to do with, so. But yeah, okay, so the main cast, I guess, is Michael Pepp, Leanne Pippin, Garner Jarrett, Michael Curtis, Talis Geo Hegan-Freifeld, a.k.a. Talis Rose, Corbin Alba, Maddie Knox, William Thomas Hodgson, and Torian Najaka, and but in all about 50 people helped, I would say, on this project. 50 different students, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. During the time, I was also working on a documentary, which is also available, called The Age of the Artist, and a lot of these people helped on that as well. So there's the final purse gag, the follow through rather, of that joke that happened very, very near to the end, or to the beginning. And this, so for some reason I decided I wanted to write a second episode during the summer in between writing this episode and the actual production. I didn't write the acting lab segment, but I wrote some of the sketches. And one that I actually didn't write, but this was going to be the main sketch that was going to kind of there are going to be 3 different parts of it throughout the whole episode, and it was going to be Tuesday's journey through Purseland, I guess. And it was going to kind of meet up at the end with the acting lab somehow, and I don't know. I don't know why I wrote it, because I knew in my heart that I was never gonna make, or not, unless this somehow got really popular, which it didn't. And I would never make another sketch show right now, not for probably at least half a decade. This song I knew was going to be the credit song. This song is called, what's it called? It's by RJD2. Good Times Roll Part 2. And I knew from, like, very early on that this was going to be the finale, the actual credits, but it was going to be totally different. It was actually going to be, the school was going to be more of a focus, and it was going to be kind of like, originally, and it was going to be kind of like all these kids are like, they represent this art school, and I thought that it was going to be something that the school would want to use, but due to our animosities I mentioned earlier, and all that stuff that blew up, they kind of didn't really want to have anything to do with me, and I kind of didn't want to put the effort into doing this credit sequence. I was going to go around the whole school, be really like orchestrated. Everyone was going to actually be in it, like as their title appears over their face. So, very kind of like this, but in one continuous shot, or what would be a slightly continuous shot. And that zombie that right there was actually Matt Tanner. He got a cameo role. I'm really super happy about that. I was so stoked that he's in it. So yeah, I guess what I opted out to do was just kind of edit to this song that I was so attached to, and make just kind of, I guess, a blooper reel, which is, very befitting and probably the better route, which is essentially Tim Edeker, the the star of Love's Enormous Wings. He kind of convinced me, like, he's like, dude, you got an hour of footage already. The credits, you should just do more of it and have more to look at. And there's actually, like, this is one of my favorite outtakes. I actually, like, made an outtake reel, and this one I laughed so hard. It's just like, she got so disgusted. It's a lot longer. I just took a little bit of that, but there's Matt right there pushing the trash can. He actually was able to perform at our house I think it was like right after this shoot, so that was cool. But yeah, so I guess, I don't know, it's the end of it, and I think I said pretty much what I wanted to say, but we got a couple more minutes. I don't know, this is it was a really fun project. I really tried to embrace allowing as much input to be put in as possible from as many sources. A lot of, like, this whole sequence was completely improv. Like, this was not in the script. This was just like, hey, we want to do this, and I was just like, sure. Like, you're here for me, but I'm also here for you, like, let's do this, and, if it works, it works. Stuff like this, like, I think this stuff's funny, but it kind of broke up the, of this, it's just, but a lot of it actually made it in. There's a lot of times that, if you read the script and tried to line it up with what we actually filmed, it's very similar, but a lot of the deeper, or kind of more subtle and more, actually sometimes rewarding jokes are just thought of on the spot, because my goal was to basically cast a relatively diverse grouping that I could cherry pick from my classmates of funny people, and it was fun, man. This project was really fun, and like, I don't think anyone would really look back at this and just say, like, that was bad, or that was a waste of time, or that was like, everyone learned something. I learned so much on this project, and I really just enjoyed it. And it was my last year of college, and it was just really the best way to end my college career, my educational career, with just spending great time with all my close, talented allies. And that is the end of what will always be the end of Comedy, Sketch, my senior thesis. All right. Thanks for listening.